Hi there, welcome to Kneppy Invest. Do you love ships or boats? If you do, potentially Austal, the company I'll be featuring in today's video, is the company for you to invest in because it is possibly, no more like probably, the only shipbuilding company on the ASX. Has been around for quite a while. Get stuck into that in the next slide. But I have been tracking the fortunes of Austal's share price the last about 6 to 9 months because the share price had been in a long-term downtrend. Well, we'll say a medium-term downtrend. And then share price started to go sideways about 6 months ago. So what I was waiting for was some sort of catalyst to move the share price out of that consolidation range. And it seems like that happened about 2 weeks ago when Austal announced a contract with US Coast Guard, fairly big contract in terms of dollars, but Austal does have low margins. So even though this was a big contract in terms of dollar amounts, the margins will bring the total benefits to Oz down a fair bit. But it's just the name of the party in terms of this contract or the customer, US Coast Guard, a pretty highly reputable organization. And I think that's one of the reasons why the market has reacted quite positively to this announcement. Share price has increased 33% on the back of it. I have been waiting for a little bit of a pullback, and we haven't seen that pullback as of July the 14th. I am recording this video 10 minutes after trading has begun on July 14, and share price is still hovering around about $2.50. So I've already mentioned that Austal is a shipbuilder. It was founded in 1988 and then listed on the ASX in December 1998. So it has been around on the ASX for about 24 years, almost 25 years. Now, the current CEO is Paddy Gregg. He's been the CEO or that role since January 2021. Sometimes I do like a CEO who has been in that position for a long time, but just because the CEO has only been in that role for just over 1 year, about 18 months now, is not a negative in my opinion. But if he had been in a role for, say, 10 years, that would be actually a positive. However, you could argue that sometimes you do need fresh blood. I'm just thinking of Booktopia. They have told Tony Nash, I think it's Tony Nash, the CEO of Booktopia, that he must leave. They want a new CEO. So that's bad news for the co-founder or founder of Booktopia. He's been forced out. But sometimes you do need that fresh insight into a company as the company moves forward. From some really interesting shareholders on their books, BlackRock, Norwegian Bank, which is a sovereign fund of Norway, WH Sol Pattinson, and FSBO, which is a Florida State Board of Administration, which is a pension fund. It's really interesting to see a pension fund on Austal's shareholder list. Current market cap of Austal at $2.50 is $900 million. And the ticker code for Austal is ASB. Now to the financial situation or performance of Austal over the past 11 years. So this goes back to 2010, looking at the yearly data. So the first thing I'm looking for here is trends in revenue. And if you go back to 2010 and now, the trend is up. They've increased revenue. In fact, they've almost tripled revenue from 500 million to 1.6 billion. We have seen revenue fall off in the last financial year, and that's one of the reasons why the share price has pulled back. So the other thing I'm going to look for here is cash flow from operations and profit. And in most years, both of those are positive. And in the last 4 years, they've been highly positive. And that's one of the reasons why we have seen Austal's share price reach a record high a few years ago. So things are looking up for Austal. This company is growing. They've been around for a while, so a mature company in terms of their life, but I think this company still has room to grow from here. And this contract with the US Coast Guard will only help that growth in the coming 5 to 10 years. Now to the US Coast Guard, and the US Coast Guard, just what they're involved in include maritime law enforcement, maritime response, maritime prevention, maritime transportation system management, maritime security operations, and defense operations. And a lot of what this company does, or this organization does, has to do with being on the open waters. And to be on the open waters, they need ships. And that's where Austal comes into being. And Austal, being a shipbuilder, is a natural fit for the US Coast Guard. So let's have a look at this particular contract with the US Coast Guard, or between the US Coast Guard and Austal. This contract was announced on the 1st of July, so almost 2 weeks ago from when I'm doing this video. So I have waited a little bit of time to do a video on this. I've been wanting to do a video, but I've been waiting for a pullback in the share price. And as I mentioned before, the pullback in share price has just not happened. Anyway, so Austal announced this contract with the US Coast Guard, potential value in Australian dollars, 4.35 billion for the detail, design and construction of up to 11 offshore patrol cutters. Now, the first vessel has been contracted by the US Coast Guard with options for a further 10 vessels. Construction is expected to commence in 2023, and construction of these vessels will be done in Mobile, Alabama. So there is a lot of revenue or potential revenue for Austal, and that's one of the reasons why the market has absolutely loved this announcement. And I think, again, as I mentioned before, one of the other reasons I think the market has loved this is just the organization Austal has constructed this contract with, that is the United States Coast Guard. Now, looking at some charts for Austal, and the first chart goes back to 2010, just because that's how far back we went when we looked at the financial state. You can see a bit of volatility with Austal. You can see that during 2011 into 2013, share price actually fell from about $2.80 all the way to a low of less than 60 cents, almost 50 cents. So there is times to buy this company. When the market is fairly negative on this company, I think that's the time to buy. And there has been times when the company's share price has moved into a fairly long-term uptrend. We have seen that twice over the past 8 years. From 2013 into 2016, share price rallied from about 50 cents all the way back up to $2.60. And then during 2019, we saw pretty much an exponential rise in the share price of this company. In fact, it rose from about $2 to a high of almost $5. And that $5 high in the share price was reached towards the end of 2019. But we have seen share price pull back a fair bit from that high of $5 all the way to a low of $1.60, which was reached towards about August or September of 2021. And then, as I mentioned before, share price has been consolidating. Be able to see that consolidation period in the share price when we look at the daily chart. So let's have a look at the daily chart now. This is the daily chart of Austal going back to the start of 2021. And during 2021, share price was in a well-defined downtrend. You can just see that share price moving down, moving averages moving down, nice little spread between the 50-day and the 100-day moving average. And it wasn't until towards the start of 2022 where we started to see those moving averages come together. And that is telling us share price is starting to move in consolidation period. So really it was either in January or February where we started to see Austal share price starting to consolidate. And as I mentioned before, whenever I see share price consolidate like we have seen with Austal over the past 6 months, I want to see some sort of catalyst for the share price to break out of the consolidation range. And we saw that with this particular contract. In fact, the day before they announced this contract, the share price was at the bottom of the range around $1.80. So the share price really rebounded off the back of this announcement. And the share price kept going up. Sometimes when you do see the share price increase after this sort of announcement, the share price will pull back a little bit. We have not seen that with Austal. However, in saying that, you'll notice the share price is hovering around and has been hovering around $2.50 over the past 5 trading days. And if we go back to the most recent high back in August of last year, where we did see the share price rally, hit about $2.50 and then pull back significantly during the latter period of August into September. In fact, the share price pulled back from $2.50 all the way to the low of about $1.65. That high was $2.50. So $2.50 is a natural resistance level for Austal because of that recent high. And that's why the share price is hovering around that level. We have seen some selling coming in, but wherever share price then retreats back to $2.45 because of that selling, because of those traders who are selling up because the share price is at the resistance level, we have seen some buying coming in. And that's why we have seen these long tails on these candlesticks, these one-day candlesticks. So what I'm waiting for here is either Austal share price to pull back to about $2.15. If it pulls back to about $2.15, that would be a nice little entry position because I do think this is a significant contract for this company. In saying that, if the share price doesn't pull back, we might see a share price pull above $2.50, and that would be a good buying price as well because it's moved above that resistance level at $2.50, that previous high, and it's also at a multi-year high. And that's the sort of thing I am looking for when I'm trading a company's shares for the medium term. Not sure if Austal is a long-term buy and hold sort of company. As you can see in that weekly chart going back to 2010, there is a bit of volatility in the share price. So I do think this could be more of a trading stock than a long-term buy and hold sort of company. That's all I have for this video on Austal and the contract with the US Coast Guard. If you do have any more information, any more thoughts, any opinions, I'd love to hear it. So leave it in the comment section of this video. Otherwise, I'm not a financial advisor. If you do need financial advice, make sure you seek out someone who is qualified and can speak to your own financial needs. That's it for this video. Have a good day. Bye.